Welcome back to learning a little bit more about the Arthritis Foundation aquatic programs. And as always, Dr. Lori Sherlock here to help you along with this time around some lesson planning tips and tricks. So really the goal of today's short session is to help make you a little bit more comfortable with creating safe, effective, and engaging Arthritis Foundation exercise programs. And as always, if you have questions, my email is right down there, so feel free to reach out with any questions that you might have. All right, so what are lesson plans and why are they so important? They're basically a roadmap that provides us an opportunity to look at the front end before we start jumping into class, to look at the class and think, what are my goals? How am I going to get there? And then that lesson plan is going to provide us a roadmap to get us from point A, the beginning of class, to our destination, the end of class, in a safe and effective way. So this well-designed lesson plan throughout specifically the Arthritis Foundation program, we have some essentials that we have to cover. And as you're seeing here, we've got essential class components, we've got some key instructional elements, and we of course have our very important exercise selection. All of these things provide us the opportunity to give our classes different flavors, different goals, different mindsets, different areas of emphasis. So when we go into our classes, we have a specific focus, a specific intention, and it helps us stay on task. If you're like me, I can get easily distracted. So because of that lesson plan being in front of me, I have an idea of exactly what I want to do, the goals that I want to achieve, and how I'm going to get there from warm up to cool down. Otherwise, it might be that somebody says, oh, this is bothering me today, and I take a left turn specifically to meet that person's goals, which isn't ultimately meeting the goals of the entire class. So they're to assure that we're hitting all of these points that are essential for very good and expected Arthritis Foundation programming. A plan is important, and I love a plan. I love plans and I love lists. So a plan is really things that this is going to help us come up with our ultimate lesson plan, right? So a plan, I might go into this thinking, all right, what exercises do I want to use? How am I going to format those exercises? Am I going to utilize combos? What types of timing am I going to utilize? So these are things that I want to think about as I enter into that lesson planning phase. One thing that you'll notice, particularly as a new instructor, is that you may find that lesson plans take you quite a bit of time the first few times that you're doing them. And as you do it, you become more accustomed to the process and what you want to get out of the class, and this will become an easier and easier task. And I'm going to, again, show you a few little tips and tricks to make it even easier. So I've got a couple notes here. First, that we want to use the exercises from the book along with their correct names. Now, sometimes we have a tendency to describe exercises a certain way. So maybe we're doing a front leg lift, and that's how we're describing it. We want to make sure we're utilizing the correct terms out of the book. This is something the Arthritis Foundation is really pushing us to do as instructors, but it allows for a continuality across the spectrum of classes, no matter where your participants may go. So it might be that they go out of town, they find an Arthritis Foundation class, they're able to step into it seamlessly because everybody's using the same terminology. We cannot add new exercises. We can't create our own thing, but what we can do is combine exercises to reach the goals that we're looking for. So maybe we're trying to mimic an activity of daily living. And to do that, we're going to put 2, 3, or even 4 exercises together in order to mimic that movement. That's totally reasonable. What we cannot do is create something brand new that's not within the book. Remember that Arthritis Foundation is something that is research backed. This is something that is that the program is prided on. So we want to make sure that we're sticking to those exercises that have been tested, tried and true. The combinations can increase challenge and they absolutely can add some fun. So let's go back to putting 2, 3, 4 exercises together. We may do this to mimic an activity of daily living, or we might do this to challenge mental capacity, to challenge dual task training, to challenge different components of a person's ability to complete those exercises with success. Always keep in mind, we want to do this in a safe capacity. So if you find that people's form is starting to waver from what it needs to be, we want to take us a couple steps back. So our ability to be a bit more flexible in when we're watching our classes and we're taking feedback from their ability, we want to pay attention to that. And if we need to make changes, we're able to do that. And the last one I have on here is timing, rep schemes, exercise planning, and placement. They should all relate back to your plan. So I'm going to talk about this a little bit more about setting goals. But everything that you're doing should be focused on, does this add to what I'm trying to do today or what I'm trying to do globally in my class? So let's dive into that a little bit further. Okay, so class goals. This is kind of step one. When you are creating lesson plans for your classes, you want to take a step back and you want to think, what does my class need? And it may be that you are getting feedback directly from your class. You're asking them, why are you coming to this class? What is motivating you to exercise? What goals do you have that you would like to achieve by doing this class? So those types of things, just general communication within your class, can give you some insight on where your focus should be, but it can also build a better relationship between you and your participants, which is always really great. So coming up with these class goals, if you take feedback from your class participants, or if you're just kind of looking at global, what are they able to do well? What are they not able to do well? Maybe you notice that as people walk in, their walking pattern's not so good. So maybe you need to work on walking endurance. Maybe they're telling you stories about going to the grocery store, and that's really challenging for them because of the duration. Okay, I need to work on endurance a little bit more here. Maybe they're having a hard time with some housework at home. Maybe they're having issues picking up a grandchild. Maybe they're having issues with dexterity within their hands. So thinking about these things, whether it's via observation from you, seeing what they're physically capable of doing, or asking, hey, what kind of things are you looking to get out of this class? Taking in some feedback can really assist in you creating some viable goals for your groups. So think about that. We do always want to make sure that we're including all the essential components in every lesson plan, but things can come to the front end. And I'll talk about that a little bit more today. So in a lesson plan, what's the anatomy? First, we're talking about Arthritis Foundation exercise programming, specifically aquatic programming. There are essential class components. These essential class components include flexibility and range of motion, muscular endurance and strength, cardiorespiratory endurance, balance and coordination, and relaxation techniques. These are things that should appear in every single lesson plan that we do. Now, as I mentioned before, one can take front center stage and the other might be a supporting role. So it may be that I want to plan a class that is highlighting muscular strength or muscular endurance. And so that's going to be my lead character of the day. And then I'm going to have other pieces that are going to support that lead character, going to support that role, support that goal of the day. You're going to see flexibility and range of motion show up every single time, but it may be in a shorter amount. You're going to see cardiorespiratory endurance, again, show up. But if my focus is muscular strength and endurance, it might just not be the main character of the day. It might be something that we're highlighting a little less. Same with balance and coordination and relaxation. So depending on what my area of emphasis is for the day, you're going to see maybe a larger amount of class time spent on that, potentially more exercises focused on that, potentially you're seeing it interwoven between other things out throughout the course of the day. So maybe we do a muscular strength and endurance component, and then we add in flexibility, and then we do a muscular strength and endurance, and then we do a cardio, and then we do muscular strength and endurance, and then we do a balance and coordination. So these are just examples of how we might see every single one of those essential class components appear while still highlighting our goals. And again, we'll talk about that a little bit more as we go today. You're also going to see key instructional elements. So these are things that are necessary, that are within the Arthritis Foundation Aquatic programming, that we have to include in every single lesson in every single class that we do. So this is a health education topic. This is posture and body mechanics, which is paramount for everything that we do, every exercise that we teach. Body awareness is something that, again, we want to make sure that we highlight, that we teach people how to have body awareness and build that into our instructional elements and teach that within every exercise that we do, as well as breath awareness. And that could be done, again, throughout class. That could be done at the beginning and at the end, where we're having a highlighted section on that breath awareness. But teaching our individuals how to breathe properly with exercise, not just to breathe, but how to breathe properly with exercise, to exhale on exertion, to inhale on the easier part, to make sure that we're breathing throughout the duration of exercise. Some people, when we do hard things, we hold our breaths. So thinking about these things and how we're going to intermix those into our lesson plans, these are essential. So essential class components, key instructional elements, these are in every single lesson plan that we do. Now we get to play a little bit. So as instructors, yes, we have to include these things, but we have a lot of freedom in how we structure them and in how we relate them to the needs of the class and the class goal. So class structure, we can look at continuous, interval, circuit. We might have a specific focus. So maybe we have a day where we mimic a grocery shopping day, or we have a gardening day, or maybe we have an endurance day, endurance walk day, or an activities of daily living day. So whatever it might be, we might have a specific focus. We may have a specific type of format that we are looking to achieve or looking forward to doing to achieve our class goal. The global needs of the class. This is, again, something that we as instructors want to consider. As leaders, we want to think, what are the needs of my class and how can I meet those needs? Because if we're meeting those needs, people are going to keep coming back. In addition to that, if we're meeting those needs, quality of life is going up. So intermediate activities of daily living, these are things like shopping, like extracurricular activities. Okay, so these are things that bring a higher quality of life versus our activities of daily living, which are our basic necessities for living independently. Being able to go to the bathroom by ourselves without assistance, going from sit to stand, in various formats, being able to walk. Okay, so these are things that we need in order to maintain our independence to the best of our ability. Improve fitness. Okay, so that's a global need. Most people want to come to class and improve their fitness levels. Most people want to reduce their level of pain. A lot of people love the social aspect of a group fitness class. You'll find individuals that don't really want to socialize, but they will find their niche as well within your class. So finding what people need and what they don't is going to be part of your role as a leader. Management of symptoms. And so pain isn't always the only symptom, right? We can look at a lot of different types of arthritis. Remember, arthritis is an umbrella term for over 100 varieties of arthritis, or 100 conditions that fit under that umbrella of arthritis. So how can we manage those symptoms? How can we help people manage symptoms through exercise and through building fitness? And lastly, we don't necessarily think about it, but fun is important. If I'm having fun doing something, I'm going to come back for more. And our goal, again, as a leader, is to try to get people to come back and be as consistent as possible with their exercise program. So these components, whether they're essential class components, key instructional elements, how we structure our class, or the emphasis and focus of those global class needs, this is all coming into what is this class's goal? All right, so at the top of my paper, when I'm starting a lesson plan, I'm going to write the goal of the class. And that might be enhanced mobility. That might be to engage in higher levels of socialization. That might be to decrease pain, specific emphasis in the lower extremity. Whatever that day is, that focus is for the day. I want to make sure that all of these factors are leading me to that ultimate goal. So when we structure our class, Okay, again, we have essential components, which are outlined here. In the warm-up, warm-ups are, they don't, we oftentimes don't see the level of importance with warm-ups or cool downs. We just think it's something we're supposed to do. Warm-ups are so very important, particularly for clinical populations, and cool downs are too. Warm-ups allow ourselves, our bodies, to get ready to perform the tasks of the main segment. Okay, so I'm not just jumping right into a higher effort, to a bigger range of motion. I am physically and mentally preparing my body to perform more extensive exercise. Okay, so the warm up is there for a reason. It is very important. Plus, we can integrate a whole lot of things within this warm up, including our health education, any announcements that we need to make, and of course, talking about the goal of the class. Commonly, when we discuss the goals of the class with our participants, they get kind of excited about it and oftentimes will get a little bit more on board with the exercises that we're doing because they might think, I value that goal. So therefore, if I do these exercises, I'm going to get better or closer towards that goal. Okay, so talking about the goal of the class can oftentimes get a lot of buy-in from the participants that day. The main segment, this is where we've got our essential class components, our flexibility and range of motion, muscular strength and endurance, cardiovascular endurance, balance and coordination, relaxation techniques. All of these things are incorporated within our main segment, but we have a lot of freedom with how we organize those, how we highlight certain things, how we arrange the exercises in a way that makes sense to us, to our class, and to, of course, our goal. In the cool down, again, very important. When we're talking about clinical populations, this is usually where incidents occur. If people don't cool down appropriately, we commonly see cardiovascular incidents or accidents. So it's very important for us to take that main segment effort and gradually bring it down closer to what we call homeostasis or resting levels. So we want to bring that heart rate down. We want to bring our respiration rate down. We want to cool the body down. We want to do it in a way that allows for our participants to leave fairly close to where the way they came in. So that cool down is super important. Again, we're looking at 5 to 10 minutes for that, 5 to 10 minutes for our warm up. And our main segment has the largest range of 5 to 40 minutes, depending on how much class time you have. Everything again is gearing towards that ultimate goal. So everything we do should relate to why are we doing this for in relation to the goal that we have. Observe, listen, ask, see, make sure that we are reflecting the class needs and the class goals. Okay, so ADLs, fitness, decreasing pain, improving socialization, managing symptoms, adding fun. Okay, so thinking about all of those things as we structure our class. So let's take a little example here. So our first example is my goal for the class is walking confidence and fall prevention. Commonly when we have individuals that have compromised joints, have various forms of arthritis, whether that's osteoarthritis, whether that's fibromyalgia, where we have less joint involvement and more musculotendinal involvement, we don't see a lot of confidence in their gait pattern or how they walk. So walking confidence is heavily related to the amount that people fall and also the amount that people move. If I can get people to become more confident in the way that they walk, then I'm going to be doing them a lot of favors in their quality of life and the amount of movement that they're going to see throughout the course of their day. And I'm going to reduce their fall risk. So walking confidence and fall prevention makes sense to me for a good goal. So how do I reflect this in each of the essential components? In the warm-up, I want to incorporate some various walking patterns, balance exercises, and highlight foot and ankle mobility. This still leaves the door wide open for a whole lot of exercises that I can pull directly from the Arthritis Foundation book. So looking at these various walking patterns, there's quite a few that are listed in the book. I can also build in, I can put combos together. So I might do a walking pattern paired with a balance exercise, paired with a foot and ankle mobility exercise. All right, so there's nothing wrong with me putting things together to make the patterns more complex and challenging for the group, depending on their ability level. I'm also during the warm up going to focus my health education topic on the goal. So I want to talk to them about how to help them understand how the link between arthritis and walking and falls. So there is a link between compromised joints, strength, mobility, with the ability to walk effectively and with confidence, and with the rate of falls. Okay, so I'm going to talk to them a little bit about this. I'm going to talk to them about how exercise can improve walking confidence and fall prevention. So really, if we train the muscles for range of motion, for flexibility, for endurance, for strength, for all of the things that the Arthritis Foundation really focuses in on, we can improve walking confidence and fall prevention. I'm also going to discuss the practical fall prevention, some practical fall prevention strategies that they can employ. This could be home safety. So I might talk about how rugs are a tripping hazard, how clutter around the house is a problem, how lighting can be an issue. I might discuss how medications are something simple that I can tell them to guide them to talk to their pharmacist to make sure there aren't any medications that are interacting with one another or standing alone that may have a negative implication on their balance. Vision is huge. So I might talk to them about how if they don't get an annual eye exam, that they may be at a greater fall risk because their vision is not as good as it needs to be. They're not seeing the things that they need to, and therefore they're tripping, or they're not perceiving depth, so they're tripping. So vision checks. I may also talk about hearing checks and how the importance of the inner ear for balance. Additionally, I might talk about nutrition, because if we don't have enough nutrition on board, we might get lightheaded or dizzy. Or if that nutrition also relating to hydration. So I'm drinking enough water and having enough electrolytes. So tons of things that I can talk about within this health education topic that I can build into the warm up and kind of continue that lecture throughout the entirety of class, depending on how much I want to talk about it and also how much my class wants to hear. In the main segment, my goal remains the same: walking confidence and fall prevention. So what do I want to do here? I want to focus range of motion and flexibility exercises around the mechanics of walking. Okay, so again, I'm going to hit all of the essential pieces that I need to include in my main segment, but I'm going to have a special emphasis on walking confidence and fall prevention. So focus range of motion and flexibility on mechanics of walking. So this is talking about posture. This is talking about hip range of motion. This is talking about knee range of motion. This is talk about foot and ankle flexibility. And we can move that on and on and on. So if it could be that I'm talking about multitasking with walking. Okay, so dual task training with walking. So I'm walking and now I'm going to bring in an arm action or a head movement. Okay, so there's again a slew of different things here that we could bring into how to focus our intention of walking confidence and fall prevention into range of motion and flexibility. For my cardiovascular endurance, I'm going to use walking, marching, start and stop balance activities, games that incorporate walking and balance. Again, tons of resources within your book, and I'll give you a couple more after in a few slides here too. The balance and muscular endurance, again, posture, lower body strength, core stabilization. These are things that I'm going to highlight during that strength and muscular endurance component of my class. For balance and coordination, that's one of the things I'm really focusing in on here with fall prevention, but exercises that revolve around walking navigation, direction change, dynamic and static balance, meaning that I'm standing still, that's my static balance, and dynamic, I'm moving, and incorporating balance activities within that movement. So it could be that I am increasing the speed of movement, slowing down the speed of movement, changing the range of motion of the movement, changing from doing one side versus both sides at the same time. There's lots of different things that I can do here to, again, take the exercises that I'm given and tweak them to meet the needs of my goal and my class. And then the relaxation, I'm going to talk about relaxing the tense body parts that may be inhibiting range of motion with walking. Okay, so that's just one example of how I'm going to bring in relaxation techniques. Within the cool down, I'm going to continue to incorporate walking patterns, balance exercises, and highlight that foot and ankle mobility. I'm going to reflect on the class goals. I cannot tell you how much a little bit of reflection can go a long way. commonly when people are asked to reflect, and there's a lot of studies that show this, when they're asked to reflect on an experience, they commonly get more out of the experience because they're able to look back and say, oh, I did these things. And because I did these things, I feel this way. Or something it can relate to maybe a common goal or maybe a sensation or maybe the global experience. And then I'm going to assign some homework. I love good homework. Now, the key to good homework is we want to make sure that it's safe for them to do. So, ankle mobility at home, walking, multitasking so if we're walking and we're doing an additional task, lower body strengthening exercises like a gluteal set, doing this in a safe way. And that's going to mean something different for everyone. It might be that safe means that I'm sitting down while I'm doing it, or I'm holding on to an immovable object like a countertop when I'm doing it. And it may also mean that I can do this pretty safely without any issues, without any safeguards. So keep that in mind when you're assigning homework for your classes. But giving people one thing to think about when they're at home until the next class can be a great thing for us to do. There's a concept called habit stacking. So we take a habit and we take something a habit that already exists. So like brushing your teeth. And we want to incorporate this new thing. We want to make this new thing a habit. And maybe that's ankle mobility. Okay. Or maybe it's those gluteal sets. So every time I brush my teeth, I'm going to do gluteal sets. All right. It can be as simple as this. So I'm stacking those two habits together to try to make it more seamless in my daily life. So looking at a few other tips and tricks, when we know from our previous session that we talk about being adaptable. So making sure that we know how to progress and regress exercises and also being able to read the room. Am I doing something that seems too challenging for people? Am I doing something that isn't challenging them enough? So read the room, find out pay attention, and also ask questions. It can be as simple as, is this too hard? Is this too easy? Do you want more? Do you want less? Do you like it? Ask questions. Now, questions come with feedback, so be ready for that. Time management. So again, this lesson plan is so important to help us manage our time. We might have this fantastic idea of what we want to get done throughout the course of the day, but if we don't have the timing set so that we know, gosh, I have 45 minutes with this group. I need to make sure that I'm spending 5 to 10 minutes of that during the warm up, 5 to 10 minutes of that during the cool down. So I have this much time to complete my mission, right? So time management is so important, managing the actual segments and also the transitions. We have to allot for time for that as well. So if we're moving from one activity to another that maybe requires a different setup or a different form of stability or equipment, we have to give ourselves time for that as well. And of course, you have resources. So the manual and the online courses are available for you. The manual actually has quite a few example lesson plans, example combos, things that relate, if we're going back to that example, that relate directly to walking in balance. It's got example games, example health, education topics, so all sorts of things. There's also the AEA leader tools. So the Aquatic Exercise Association produces a leader tools. This is something that comes right to your email. If you don't get those, you can also access them through the AEA Wave website. So you can check those out. They're completely free. And very commonly, those leader tools have health education ideas, games, neuroaerobics, lesson plans. So it's got a whole lot of stuff in there for you. And there's websites out there. So don't randomly choose something off of the internet that says, this is a good exercise for arthritis. Remember, we need to stick to the book. If you're sticking to the book, we can use things like the AEA website, the Arthritis Foundation, as well as companies like Fit Motivation that specifically cater into, you'll see Arthritis Foundation exercise programming, or Arthritis Foundation aquatic exercise programming. So you can utilize these resources to help you see really good lesson plans and then utilize those lesson plans and then learn how to create your own. So as you're getting started, you may choose to do a pre-canned lesson plan until you get really confident in creating your own. There's nothing wrong with that. Here's an example of one of the lesson plans that you can just pull right off of the AEA website. So this is just the front end example. All of them are written a little bit differently. So you may find that there are some formats that speak to you a little bit more than others. One other tip that I absolutely use all the time, almost all my lesson plans, I write in a patterned format. Okay, so what does that actually mean? Again, I'm going to start with the goal. Consider my goal. If my primary class goal in this example is to include muscular endurance and flexibility, I'm going to focus my class around these variables. I've got the other components also that are going to play a role, but these are going to be my two primary variables that I focus in on throughout the entirety of the class. Then I create my pattern around that goal. So if my goal is muscular endurance and flexibility, I might create a pattern. Here's some really simple ones. 2 minutes of muscular endurance paired with 2 minutes of flexibility, or 6 minutes of muscular endurance paired with 4 minutes of flexibility. I just need to know, is there a purpose behind my pattern, right? So I want to incorporate a purpose behind that pattern. Maybe it's a timing purpose. Maybe it's a level of endurance purpose, meaning that a class that is just getting started, we are going to do a smaller number of a smaller amount of time for muscular endurance and provide more variation and variability because I don't want them to completely get tired over the course of the session. So thinking about my class and what they need. In this example, I'm going to go ahead with this 2 and 2. 2 minutes of muscular endurance, 2 minutes of flexibility. And I'm going to pair this around a body part. So in this one example, my first example here, I'm going to have 1 minute of a diagonal arm reach, variation A, 1 minute of a forward arm reach, and those are going to be my muscular endurance exercises. And then I'm going to do two exercises that are going to be more flexibility forward. So I'm going to do a shoulder rotator and a self back rub. Okay. And I might choose to use this one time around, or I might choose to use it multiple times during the class. Then I'm going to take the same pattern and I'm going to insert new exercises. Okay. So this time I'm going to focus a little bit more on lower extremity. I'm going to do the hip turnout, the crossover, knee bend, and the straight leg lift. Okay, so again, first 2 minutes are going to be muscular endurance. Second 2 minutes are going to be more flexibility associated. All right, and it would look a little like this. So my muscular endurance, these are my two exercises. I'm going to do each exercise for, again, I can play with this. I might choose to do each exercise for a minute. I might choose to partner the exercises together, create a combination and do that combination for 2 full minutes. I might choose to do ask them to do 10 repetitions of one and then 10 repetitions of another. And we do that for two full minutes. Okay, so there's lots and lots of ways that we can play with this. With flexibility, sorry, let me rewind. With muscular endurance, I'm going to have a higher level of emphasis on, I want you to try to get your muscles tired. I want you to go through a full range of motion, but apply more force as your body allows it, against the water, right? So I want you to utilize the water to get what you need for muscular endurance. I want you to try to fatigue the muscles. For flexibility, I don't want you to fatigue the muscles. I want you to go into a nice broad stretch, going towards that end range of motion, again, to where your body feels comfortable and pain-free. Same thing with my hip. I'm going to have two exercises that I do for muscular endurance focus, a little bit more effort, okay, paired with 2 minutes of flexibility exercises, maybe less effort, and in the respect of my heart rate's not gonna increase, but it may be that my effort goes into pushing my range of motion a little bit more, as long as I'm staying within that comfort zone. I hope that these examples and these little tips help you along with creating super successful lesson plans. And as always, feel free to reach out if you have any questions along the way.